have a chat and then
Yep.
and open source it.
Sure.
Okay, cool. Hey everyone. Today, Mohu and I decided to have a chat and open source our chats. In the past, we've had a few exchanges, and they were really intellectually stimulating, thought-provoking conversations. And we thought, with the changes that are happening in the advertising world and the marketing world, it would be great to share our thoughts, right? Myself, as the co-founder and CEO of Thrad, a startup doing ads and LLMs, and then Mohu, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yep, sure. So I work at VaynerMedia India and I work as the media director. My primary responsibility is to actually, curate the digital media or the biddable media strategies for our Indian-based clients. And we kind of work with clients across, different business verticals all across, right? And VaynerMedia is, one of those independent agencies which is actually owned by Gary Vaynerchuk. And we have this notion that social is actually at the center of our agency. So definitely social media is something that we promote a lot. But definitely, I think with things changing up and AI actually coming into the picture, definitely I think this chat with Andre is going to be I would say pretty fruitful to understand that what the future of marketing actually or even ad tech looks like from here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what would be interesting to discuss today is, of course, AI, right? But where I think AI is underappreciated and where I think AI is overhyped is that, AI is a very general term, and so it's difficult to even know what do we mean by that, right? But I think there are two main ways that AI gets involved in advertising today, right? One is um, AI in ads, and then the second one is ads in AI, right? And the one that I think has been overused, and maybe rightly so or not, but it's AI in ads, right? Using AI to generate ads, using AI as the tool to do, media planning and media buying and creative generation and so on, right? Um, but the one that is much less spoken about, just because the maturity of the space has not reached yet, but I think now we're entering the inflection point, is ads in AI, right? This is what we're doing at Thread, where AI is not the tool to make ads, AI is the distribution channel itself. Right. And so why, this is so exciting for us and just for the industry overall is that through time, you've had these waves of distribution, right? You have the Google Ads wave, then you had the Facebook wave, you had the TikTok wave, and now, in my mind, the next frontier is LLMs, right? That's the next major distribution channel with ChatGPT, with the rest of the LLMs and the long tail where we operate in. That creates an environment that is ripe for disruption of the current ecosystem, and that will drive, enormous results, right? Gary Vee always talks about underpriced attention, right? That you need to, punch above your weight class, buy the most undervalued attention, right? But what does that even mean, right? Like that's just principles in economics where you have, a lack of equilibrium between the supply and the demand, and so that's the best time for media buyers, for brands to position themselves where you have a lot of eyeballs, you have a lot of attention, but you have very few media buyers, right? And so in a bidding system, you're not going to bid against that many people, right? And so the bids are going to be that high. And so you can acquire your customer acquisition can be very low. And so that has been true across all these ways, right? The first Google ads were incredible, right? Like a lot of attention, a lot of reach, very little cost, right? But then as more people get onto it, the price regulates, it becomes rightly priced, and then sometimes even overpriced, and then has been, seen over again, like on Facebook and then on TikTok, like first TikTok ads, like built literal companies, right? Like one of our clients um, is um, is Voodoo, the Be Real parent company. And so what they did is like they built their whole company on the arbitrage of Facebook ads. They're like, they make mobile apps and social media apps. And so what they did is like they would advertise on Facebook. So, to promote themselves. So they would spend money, but they will also make money from ads on their own apps. And so the arbitrage, basically, they would make more money from ads on their apps than the money that they spent to acquire customers. And then they became like, multi-billion dollar company. And so that's, I think that's really interesting to see, these different waves. And I'm curious, how you think about it, because even the concept of underpriced attention, that's something that I learned from Gary. And so, you working with him and in the company, I'm curious how you're all thinking about it.
Mhm. No, absolutely. And I would say that, for a very long time, right? I've always had this curiosity that what the next format of advertising is going to be like, right? I mean, we had, as you said, that we started off with Google search. Before that, there was SEO. Then we got into these static ads and video ads. Then came connected TV, right? Audio ads, digital out of home, right? And I was always curious, and I was, having this conversation with one of my friends that what the next format of advertisement could be. And I think this is the answer for that. I think chatbot, AI, LLM ads is going to be the present and the future for that sake. But given that answer, you've been working so much and in depth at Thrads in terms of curating AI-based conversational ads. Where do you kind of foresee the future of like publisher content ads? Right? I mean, is it really going to be like disrupted completely by AI-based ads, or do you see a bit of scope of there being like a balance between the two?
Yeah, absolutely. We were just talking about this just before we started the recording, and I was telling you about the story last week at ATS London by Exchange while you're hearing a lot of publishers, right? The traditional publishers, the news publications and so on, and their struggles, right? It's not the best time to be a publisher today, right? Especially in their ad operations teams. They're starting to bleed in terms of impressions, right? Because all of them are coming to us, all of them are flowing to LLMs. And so people are not clicking on blue links anymore. They're spending time in chat and just because they're getting so much more value from this experience. And so my thoughts here is those traditional publishers need to reconsider their business model and they need to reconsider what it even means to be a publisher, right? Traditionally, a publisher is the content owner sometimes, right, the person who makes the content itself, right? If I'm a Condé Nast, I'm gonna make my articles about luxury and so on, right? But I'm also the distribution channel. People go directly to me, they consume the content there, and so that gives me the possibility to monetize them directly. Now with the LLMs into the picture and people not coming on my site anymore is not as much or not spending as much time anymore. um that forces publishers to reconsider their business model, right? I think one of the companies that has, led and empowered publishers is Cloudflare, right? That has been reflected in their stock. I think like they did 100% like year to date, and so um, Mr. Prince, their CEO, has released this incredible product for publishers where this actually opens the gates to monetize differently, right? With pay per scrape, right? Uh, one of the big um, scandals of LLMs is that they're scraping the publishers and they're not, allowed to do that. And so, who owns the content and is that fair use and so on. But with this pay per scrape now, if it's not a person getting on my website, then it's actually an agent. It's about scraping my website. Well, maybe I can capture value from them, right? And so now we're seeing less and less people on websites and more agents, right? And so that actually gives the opportunity for publishers to diversify their business model, right? And to monetize the agents and their paper scrape rather than the advertisers. But I think one of the dangers there is to be passive here and not actively realize that and not make the transition, right? What I heard is that they're getting very little, they're getting um, very little traffic, but the ad spend is still there, right? And so how is that a problem? I guess, either prices will go up or prices will go down, but that cannot continue. If you have fewer and fewer people, but you still have the ad spend that is still as high, I mean, I don't know if it's the advertisers that are not recognizing this, right? And I guess but that cannot continue forever. Right. And so maybe I'll send the question back to you. Like, what are your thoughts, right? How you as an ad spend allocator, how are you thinking about this? Because to me, it seems quite ridiculous that like these traditional publishers, it's not that they're scamming the advertisers, right? But in a way, it's like yeah, there's something tricky there. And so I don't know if those advertisers are slow to adapt or to realize that. But yeah, I'm curious, that's more your world. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think before even, for the fact that advertisers' money is going to be going into AI LLM ads. What's happening right now is that advertisers become very, I would say, apprehensive of which publisher they are even spending on, right? So a lot of SSPs, with the likes of PubMatic and Magnite, they have started.
MFA,
Sorry.
the MFA sites and the
Yeah,
quality of the
exactly.
inventory.
Yeah.
Premium,
MFA and all,
premium
all
inventory
of
is very
all of
important.
those, analytics reports actually coming up, right? It, kind of shook everyone in the ad tech industry, right? And that's why I think the likes of PubMatic and Magnite, they had to, take this route of curation, right? It wasn't something that was actually in the practice of all of these major SSP players, but now curation is something that a lot of these SSP players is, offering to all of the advertisers, right? That instead of you spending your money on like tens and thousands of websites, you can actually, just cherry pick top thousand websites, right? And it's going to give you the exact amount of reach, scale, and performance for that sake, right? So I would say that SSPs have become quite smarter in that sense, in terms of now actually understanding that they need to be working for the advertiser that they're working with, right? Because I think Analytics did a lot of great research, right? A lot of ad tech firms, kind of got shook, with what they did. But I
Yeah,
think SSPs, and I think the best part about all of the research is that the SSPs of the world, they double verify the IESs, of the world. They have now started to think a lot in the fashion of actually favoring the advertisers, right? I mean, they kind of somewhere around they realize that okay, a lot of bad practices, even if it wasn't in their control, but it was happening in some shape and form, right? But the measures that these companies have kind of taken in the past few months, is I think great to see. On the note of where the advertisers are kind of looking at like 5 years from now in terms of how AI chatbot ads is going to look like, I would still say we are still at a very early stage. Right, if we talk about the Indian market, as a whole, Google search is still pretty heavy, right? And that's basically because a lot of these AI subscription, they're quite expensive. If I talk about like Perplexity for that sake, or even ChatGPT or Gemini for that sake, they're slightly expensive, and India is a very price conscious market, right? So even if
yeah,
someone is looking to buy a subscription worth, let's just say, $10 a month, right, of any of these AI chatbots, people are going to think twice, right? If you compare it with the likes of someone sitting in a US or in a UK, right? But it doesn't mean that people are not using AI. They definitely are using even the free versions of it, right? And that's why I think the Indian advertiser are going to be looking at that. If the penetration really is going towards uh, these AI chatbots, then they might start to look into the opportunities of how they can run ads, for that sake. One of the other things is that I was just speaking with one of the publishers, and he quoted in one of his LinkedIn posts that there's a way for you to check on Google Analytics that how much of a traffic you are actually getting yielded from AI,
yeah,
LLMs itself, right? So there's a way to do that.
right.
A lot of people don't know how to even do that. Brand managers don't really know how to do that, even though they are getting traffic yielded from there. So I think a bigger part of this is got to do with the education, right? First, for the brands to understand that how exactly that supply chain kind of looks like, and if they've got to advertise on these AI LLMs, how exactly that's going to be done. What the pricing looks like. What the brand safety and other parameters kind of looks like.
Yeah, no, 100%. On the point of, access to the usage, that's our purpose and our mission. The reason why we exist is actually to subsidize the user experience with, paid media and sponsorships, right? I spend a lot of time in Silicon Valley, and so when I meet the AI companies, I say, you want Silicon Valley wants to save the world with their AI, just give it away for free, right? Or subsidize the experience
Yeah,
substantially to give it either free or, a lot cheaper. And so that's why I think, what we're doing is very important to make AI accessible for everyone and not lock it behind
which
those
is which is
those paywalls.
Yeah, which is true. So I think to your point, so Perplexity partnered with one of the biggest SIM card network company of India, one of the biggest, called Airtel. And Perplexity is actually offering its Perplexity Pro subscription free of cost for one whole year if you actually hold that SIM card network coverage, right? So the likes of Perplexity, are kind of doing that in the Indian market. And plus, the co-founder being an Indian himself, Arvind Srinivas,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he kind of
Yeah.
kind
I
of
actually met
realized that.
him.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
great.
that's a fun story. I was at one of my friends' place in San Francisco, in the center of San Francisco, in Rincon Hill specifically. And that's where Arvin lives in one of those buildings, and I go to the gym in the gym of the building. And then he comes there and we work out together. It was a great encounter. It was still in the early days before Perplexity.
Yeah.
Perplexity was already existing, and I think they were already very successful, but not quite like today. So this was a great encounter. But I'm curious, yourself from the agency perspective, two major things. What do you think agencies are doing right and wrong in terms of AI adoption, both of ads in AI and then AI in ads, right? Both as a creative tool and then as the distribution, right?
Mhm.
And then the other thing is, are your clients, are there already conversations, either from them to you or from you to them, are our clients and the actual brands conscious of this? Yeah, what are your thoughts there? I'll let you, that was a lot, so I'll let you
Yeah.
take in whichever order.
Yeah. So ads in I would say that we are way far away, from that landscape. A lot of people are not even aware that that is a possibility. If I'd be very honest, I wasn't aware about that before I, read about threads and what you guys are doing. Uh, AI for ads, yeah, that's something that we do a lot. So VaynerMedia, we have a very strong holding on the creative side of the world, right?
Yeah.
And I think we are one of the fewest agencies who even have done like what 14 Super Bowl ads in the past 7 years, right? Yeah.
Wow.
So Gary and his brother, they started VaynerMedia 15 years back as a community management service agency, and today we are buying Super Bowl ads, right? So there is no limit to the kind of
And
format.
he's saying it's the best investment in the world. Right?
Yeah,
Gary says that like if you
yeah,
can do it, you should absolutely do it.
exactly, because it's all about attention. So for those 30-second, right, you're getting like millions of eyeballs actually, at whatever the
Yeah.
price might be. But yeah, I mean there
I
are
think the CPM is like $70
$70.
CPM.
Yeah, yeah, something like that. Yeah.
70, right?
Yeah, but the best part
$70.
about Super Bowl. So I was just watching, I think, one of the podcasts for the last Super Bowl ads, which were actually preview. Apart from the the Gillettes or the Duracells or the Coca Colas of the world, there were a couple of startup companies as well who did invest in Super Bowl ads, which was kind of
Well, OpenAI.
no in Super Bowl ads.
Well, I think OpenAI did the Super Bowl ad last year.
OpenAI did, but OpenAI I would still say they are pretty well developed and established company. But there were, a couple of like I won't say smaller players, but a very newbies in the world of business. But they even kind of went ahead and invested so much in Super Bowl. Otherwise, Super Bowl has always been kind of heard upon as one of those ad format where only if you have got like $1 million like VC backing or if you've got like $1 billion valuation, then only it makes sense
Yeah,
for
yeah,
you to
yeah.
run a Super Bowl ad.
What are some examples? Like I don't have any that come to mind right now.
I'm forgetting the name of the company, but they did actually have this chef called Gordon Ramsay. So Gordon Ramsay actually was the one who was, I think he was the brand ambassador of that company. I'm forgetting the name of that company. I wish I had known. But yeah, I mean that was like an eye opener for me as well. That a company that which I
Okay.
had not heard before of, they are running Super Bowl ads and they're not afraid to do that because they
Is
understand.
this you that you run it for them, or this is
We
another
did
agency
we
that?
did not. Some other agency did it.
Okay.
But I think they must have done it in-house because they apparently did not have a chief marketing officer. So the CEO himself was, doing all the marketing and all the gigs. That was pretty interesting to
Yeah.
see. Yeah.
And yeah, Kanye as well doing the video just himself,
Oh,
like from his phone. Right?
uh,
That's not, he definitely didn't hire an agency to do that. He just did it
he,
on his phone, which is crazy.
he was at the gym. I don't know where he was. Sorry, he was at a dentist, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Kind of
something like
went
that.
like that. Yeah. So yeah, coming on to VaynerMedia. Yeah. So I think we go by, what Gary says, that attention is, what exactly we chase for the brands. And I think right now the one platform where the biggest attention span of people of all ages and genders is actually kind of incubated into is Instagram, right? I mean that is one of the I would say platforms which VaynerMedia invest the largest in. We I would say across the whole globe are the primary investors in social media apps, right? And then we come into the likes of Google's and the trade desks of the world because Instagram is where I think everyone is making content, right? And even for the brand, it makes just so much sense, to be able to just resonate with the consumers, right? Um, and
And it's the hardest as well, I guess, right? Because if
it's hard.
everyone is there,
Exactly,
you
it's hard.
compete,
Yeah,
like the competition is the highest. And so like if you win, you win, but it's very hard to win.
yeah, exactly. That no, that's true. And I think that that's a task for us, for our creative people and copywriters, in terms of, that you've got to build those kind of creatives that can actually seek attention for you.
On the topic of attention, this is actually something that I always think about is, you know, to me, not all attention is equal, right? Like in advertising, attention is like such a trendy,
Yeah.
word that everybody overuses attention in my mind. And so I have a few thoughts here. The first one is, we should definitely measure the quality of attention, right? And so in mind, I'm trying to think, okay, like where do I have the highest quality of attention? And something that I actually wanted to do with Thrad and just with LLM interactions is just thinking about it from first principles. How, undivided is the attention of the user, and how intellectually stimulated is a user and an LLM conversation compared to scrolling on social media, Instagram or TikTok or X, right? And so in my mind, right, and I don't have any data to prove this, but I would like to do this soon, is to look at just, you know, if I put the brain in a brain scanner and I scan the brain of, someone chatting to AI where they're, chatting and being intellectually stimulated, going deep on a topic, and asking, thoughtful questions rather than just like doom scrolling, right? It seems to me quite obvious that, someone that is in an LLM is actually thinking a lot more than someone that is passively scrolling, right? And so what does that mean for brands? That means that the quality of the attention is a lot higher, right? And that means that the quality of the engagement is a lot higher. It means that the user is a lot more educated, right? There is essentially even fewer barriers to information, right? What I think is incredible in LLMs is that for the first time ever, a brand is able to talk directly to the user. It's like you literally have the ambassador that is the LLM talking like to you in the voice, like it has a literal voice, right? Like if I see a billboard for Adidas in the street, I can't talk to the digital out of home billboard. I can't say like, oh, these shoes are really nice. Do you have the same shoes in red? Or do you have the same shoes? Like how light are the shoes? Are the shoes waterproof? Right? And like same in social media, if you see an ad on Instagram, I can't ask, oh, this protein is nice. Like how many calories are there inside, right? Whereas in the LLM, you can like you can see you get the ad, right? And you can talk to it. You can say like how many I get the ad for the protein, how many calories are inside, how much sugar, who's the CEO of the company, when was it founded? And so I think this is quite, mind-blowing for advertisers that gives you material, concrete insights into the quality of the attention, right? Like in a way, not all clicks are equal, right? Like if someone clicks on your ad in Instagram or someone clicks on your ad in an LLM, those clicks are not equal, right? And the quality of the click is different. And so that's something quite interesting. The
And
other thing, yeah,
sorry, just to your point, there's one thing that advertisers always kind of gun for, and they're not able to get that out of consumers, and even consumers want that from advertisers, brands, ads. It is empathy, right? And that's why I know, because you just spoke about that, the consumer using an AI chatbot can actually, express his or her feelings, right? And then be exposed to an ad. And that's why I think the empathy factor comes into the picture, which I would say is kind of possible in the AI chatbot mechanism itself. And that's going to be, I think, the most revolutionizing thing when it comes to AI chatbot LLMs, the empathy bit, right? Because if I am chatting with an AI chatbot, right, and if the chatbot is able to understand that, what my problem is, and then tell me that, okay, as per my recommendation, you feel like that, have this deficiency, why not even try a Centrum, right, for that sake. So the user even kind of, that, okay, there is like a personal doctor for myself who's actually recommending me, and he's just not, throwing that as an ad to me, but because I told the chatbot that, okay, I have this problem, and that's
yeah,
where
yeah,
a
yeah.
solution is coming to me. So it's kind of lovely to, to even think from that tangent.
Absolutely. And I think, we're quite lucky that by advertising in LLMs, we have so much context from the conversation, right? And so we're not constrained to do, behavior targeting and use cookies that are not privacy friendly. We only use contextual advertising from the context of the conversation, right? With the intent data, semantic data, contextual data, first party data, metadata, and so on. And so what that means is that all those conversations, every single conversation that your ad was served in, you as an advertiser, we at Thrad show you that conversation. We show you every single AI message, right, that triggered us to show the ad, right? So like someone asked, suggest me a workout, right? The AI is gonna give response, here's the workout routine, and then we're gonna inject the ad for the protein. We show you the the stream, right? We show you the thread, we show you the AI response, the user message, the AI response, and the ad. And so, and all of that in a privacy friendly way because, you don't really care about who it is, right? We don't tell you anything about the user. You just have the conversation. And so, that's quite unique because it really like puts you in the brain of the user. Like, what are they thinking? Like, what's their problem? Like, what are they struggling? Like, at the end of the day, businesses, you have a solution to problems of people.
Yeah.
And so, like, people basically a lot of prompts, right, are like people have problems and like they're asking LLMs like solve my problem, and companies solve people's problems. And so, as a company, as a brand, as an advertiser, I can understand much deeper the thoughts and the problems and the worries that my customers have. And so, in a way, to me, advertising in LLMs is beyond advertising, right? Beyond just the pure unit economics of the customer acquisition. Great, like I can get one more customer, I can get one more click, for quite cheap. Like this is cool. But beyond that is like, well, this information, those insights, they can be useful not only for the marketing team, but for the product team and the organization as a whole, right? Like if I, show you the ad for the Adidas shoes and like the user says, "Oh, I tried those shoes and I don't like them. They're not comfortable and like the sole gets, old really quickly." Well, damn, that's like something that, I can use and I can share with the product team and, maybe we can make improvements on that. So that I think is unique and one of a kind in the world. The other thing is like you know I'm definitely new in the industry. I would consider myself a rookie, and so basically turning that as an advantage. Like what are the advantage of being so naive, not knowing about anything and anyone, and I don't understand anything, and so we have to think from first principles, right? And so when I started this and even today, I really wanted to understand what's our role in the space. Why do I even exist? Why do I even have to exist? Right? And so I basically look at advertising, trying to really understand what is advertising, right? Advertising comes from the Latin advertire, which means in Latin redirect the attention. And so that's our job, advertisers. And in advertising, that's what we need to do. We need to redirect the attention that we were just talking about from the publisher to the advertiser, right? And ourselves as the intermediary, we need to facilitate this transaction where the publisher, the AI publisher in our case, owns the attention of the user, right? And sells it to the advertiser who pays for it in exchange of the transaction. And so we need to facilitate that transaction and make it as smooth as possible, right? So I need to shift the attention of the user as much as possible from publisher to advertiser. How does that even translate into a metric, right? And so that's why I'm so excited about the space is that we'll have, I think, an explosion of new metrics and new ways to understand advertising in the lens. And the core one that we would like to popularize to the industry is something we call the attention shift, right? I don't know Mehul, if I told you about this already, but the way that we look at the attention shift is looking at what is the topic of the conversation, what is the attention of the user before an ad and after an ad, right? Again, in like the context of, working out and asking question there. I have before the ad, I'm asking about working out, then the ad is about protein, and then I have the conversation after the ad, right? And so basically you can convert the conversation before the ad and after an ad into vectors, right? And so before the ad, it's like a vector of topic about working out, and then I have the vector of the ad, right? And then I want to look after the ad, how much did the attention shift? How much did the topic of the conversation after the ad? Do I talk more about protein, or after the ad, do I talk more about fitness? And so looking at this is, I think, one of the really cool metrics to measure engagement, measure attention, and even maybe down the line, um, at new monetization models, right? And maybe new ways to get paid, right? Because until now, the pre-AI era, the only transactional way to prove that like someone engaged with the ad was the click, right? How could I demonstrate that somebody, liked their product because they clicked on it, right? Like I have a proof like somebody clicked or they didn't click, 0 1, yes or no, right? But now, like with this attention shift, well, you can see, well, someone engaged with it. Like they didn't click on the ad necessarily, but like maybe the advertiser can get even more value by staying in the chat instead of being redirected to a website where they're going to be lost on the website. Maybe they get even more educated. They get lower in the funnel by chatting to your brand in the chat itself, right? And so this is something that doesn't really exist, right? And that I'm fascinated by, and I think, hopefully we get to popularize to the industry, with this obsession around clicks. Well, maybe clicks don't even matter. Maybe, we're gonna enter in a zero click advertising economy.
Yeah, interesting.
All right, should we wrap it off?
Yeah,
Okay, amazing. Well, Mehul, thank you so much for the conversation, and I'm looking forward to hear from the people and their thoughts.
yeah, absolutely. No, it was great chatting with you, Andre.
Thank you, Mehul.
Thank you.
See you soon. Bye.
Okay.